I'm Jennifer I from the Atlanta City Council, representing District 6 and this year's chair of the Finance Executive Committee.
Do you have a question, comment, or a suggestion related to the City of Atlanta's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget? The Atlanta City Council wants to hear from residents and stakeholders. Which services do you feel need to be prioritized in the fiscal year 2021 budget, which begins July 1st? The general fund budget is set at $673.4 million. There are several ways to reach out and submit your questions and comments to the Council today and during the virtual town hall meeting Tuesday, June 2nd at 6:15 p.m. Send your email to budgettalk@atlantaga.gov. If you'd prefer, you can submit a video of your question, as long as it's 15 seconds or less. For social media, tweet us at ATL Council using the hashtag ATLBudget. Submit your questions by messaging us on our Facebook page at ATL Council. To call in your questions, dial 404-546-1928, or you can text us at 404-548-2885.
We know how important the city budget is to you. We welcome your thoughts and your feedback. Thank you.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
Hi, I'm Jennifer I from the Atlanta City Council, representing District 6 and this year's chair of the Finance Executive Committee.
Do you have a question, comment, or a suggestion related to the City of Atlanta's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget? The Atlanta City Council wants to hear from residents and stakeholders. Which services do you feel need to be prioritized in the fiscal year 2021 budget, which begins July 1st? The general fund budget is set at $673.4 million. There are several ways to reach out and submit your questions and comments to the Council today and during the virtual town hall meeting Tuesday, June 2nd at 6:15 p.m. Send your email to budgettalk@atlantaga.gov. If you'd prefer, you can submit a video of your question, as long as it's 15 seconds or less. For social media, tweet us at ATL Council using the hashtag ATLBudget. Submit your questions by messaging us on our Facebook page at ATL Council. To call in your questions, dial 404-546-1928, or you can text us at 404-548-2885.
We know how important the city budget is to you. We welcome your thoughts and your feedback. Thank you.
Can one girl in a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
Hi, I'm Jennifer I from the Atlanta City Council, representing District 6 and this year's chair of the Finance Executive Committee.
Do you have a question, comment, or a suggestion related to the City of Atlanta's proposed fiscal year 2021 budget? The Atlanta City Council wants to hear from residents and stakeholders. Which services do you feel need to be prioritized in the fiscal year 2021 budget, which begins July 1st? The general fund budget is set at $673.4 million. There are several ways to reach out and submit your questions and comments to the Council today and during the virtual town hall meeting Tuesday, June 2nd at 6:15 p.m. Send your email to budgettalk@atlantaga.gov. If you'd prefer, you can submit a video of your question, as long as it's 15 seconds or less. For social media, tweet us at ATL Council using the hashtag ATLBudget. Submit your questions by messaging us on our Facebook page at ATL Council. To call in your questions, dial 404-546-1928, or you can text us at 404-548-2885.
We know how important the city budget is to you. We welcome your thoughts and your feedback. Thank you. so we're going to get going. This is Jennifer I, the chair of the Finance Executive Committee. It's Wednesday, May 27th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m., and this is our regularly scheduled committee meeting. I am going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I'm going to ask if Ms. Kempson-Wright can do a roll call of all members present.
Yes. Councilmember Jennifer N. I. Here. Councilmember Natalie Mosby Archibald. Here. Councilmember Andre Dickens.
I'm here, but having trouble with my computer login, so I'll be voting audibly.
Okay. Councilmember J.P. Mazikite.
Here, but having trouble with my computer login, and I'll be voting along with Councilmember Dickens audibly.
Thank you. Councilmember Joyce M. Shepherd. Present. Councilmember Howard Schiff.
What?
Councilmember Matt Westmoreland. Okay, Councilmember, I have 6 committee members on the line. Those that are having trouble with eBoardroom, we are working to assist you with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I believe Mr. Westmoreland will be joining us somewhere along the road. I'm going to make a motion to adopt our agenda and approval of our minutes from our last
Second,
meeting.
Mazikite. Here we go. Councilman Westmoreland is here, and I'll second that motion.
Okay, I think Mazikite got you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, our agenda has been adopted and our minutes have been approved. This takes us to our remarks from the public. Are we set up to hear our remarks from the public?
My name is Jesse Silverman, and I am calling on behalf of the Center for Science in the Public Interest, America's Food and Health Watchdog. CSTI has been recognized for its leadership in securing the nutrition facts label on packaged food, calorie labeling in chain restaurants, grocery and convenience stores, improving school food, and making healthier food and beverages available in public spaces and through public programs. Thank you to the members of the Finance Executive Committee of the Atlanta City Council for this opportunity to express CSTI's strong support for Resolution 20-R-3968 offered by Councilmember Boone. Poor nutrition contributes to high rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and other chronic diseases in communities across the country. For most people, achieving a healthy diet requires a supported environment. For government employees, visitors to public property, recipients of public services, and people in public custody, the food environment in public facilities and programs is an important determinant of their access to healthy food. To support residents' ability to eat healthily, state and local governments are increasingly adopting nutrition guidelines for the foods and beverages they purchase, serve, or sell on public property or through public programs. Shifting city food dollars to healthier food is a cost-effective way to prevent diet-related disease over the long run and would leverage the city's substantial purchasing power to increase vendors' capacity to provide healthier foods to all their customers. By directing the Chief Health Officer and Chief Procurement Officer to develop a healthy food procurement policy for the city, this resolution provides an opportunity to ensure that foods and beverages offered by city entities meet evidence-based criteria to support health rather than undermine it. CSTI would urge the officers to establish nutrition standards that are consistent with or exceed the most recent dietary guidelines for Americans. We would also urge city leaders to ensure that all city agencies, facilities, and programs that purchase, serve, or sell foods and beverages are subject to the standards, regardless of whether a third party is contracted to supply food products or services. By adopting this resolution, the Atlanta City Council would take a key step towards supporting the health of Atlanta residents through healthier food. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Destiny Collins, and as
am calling to address the members of the Atlanta City Council. Dear members of the Atlanta City Council, we as Georgia Stand Up write this letter to urge you to support the upcoming budget amendment that will finally close the extra city jail and redirect the $18 million currently allocated to the ATOC and the proposal of the 2020 and 2021 city budget to protect the health and wellness of Atlanta. In a time of a public health crisis and a loss of millions in city revenue, it is unconscionable for the city of Atlanta to spend $18 million to continue to operate a jail that sits mostly empty and is already slated for closure and repurposing. Now more than ever, we must put an end to locking people in cages for petty offenses such as jaywalking and disorderly conduct, wasting desperately needed resources, criminalizing people for being poor, and making us all less safe. It is beyond irresponsible to spend tens of millions of dollars on a facility operating at a 3.6% capacity when the city revenue is down by at least $40 million. If the city spends $18 million on a jail housing 50 to 100 people each night, that is spending $500 to $1,000 per detainee per evening. Keeping the jail open is also a potential threat to public health. If kept open, there remains the risk of population creeping back to pre-COVID numbers, where we've already seen an increase in recent weeks. All models predict a resurgence of COVID-19 will most likely come from super spreader sites. The top two super spreader sites or hotspots are nursing homes and jails. We ask you to support the amendment. We want you to zero out the fiscal year 21 budget, but realistically, we know that it's not possible. But it's possible for you all to drastically reduce the fiscal 21 year budget for the Department of Corrections and announce a date certain for the jail closure. We want to ensure $0 are going toward the detention of human beings. Retrain and re-employ current ATOC employees to another department to do the work within their field. These faithful employees deserve a chance to remain employed and provide for themselves and their families. And lastly, the portion for the current budget slated for personnel costs can and should be allocated to other of Atlanta city departments such as Parks and Recreation, or added to city budget to help with matters of transportation, street maintenance, Atlanta Public Libraries, or helping with our current homeless crisis. City's commitment to close and repurpose the jail cannot be reconciled with allocating millions of dollars to its operation in the upcoming year. We hope that you hear, we hope that you make the right decision, and thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Dear members of the Atlanta City Council, we as Georgia Stand Up write this letter that urge you to support its upcoming budget amendment that will finally close the extra city jail and redirect the $18 million currently allotted to the ADOC in the proposed 2020-2021 city budget to protect the health and wellness of all Atlantans. In this time of public health crisis and loss of millions to the city's revenue, it is bad for the city of Atlanta to spend $18 million to continue to operate a jail that sits mostly empty and is already slated for closure. Now more than ever, we must put an end to locking people in cages for petty offenses such as jaywalking and disorderly conduct, wasting needed resources, criminalization of people for being poor, and making us all feel less safe. It is beyond irresponsible to waste tens of millions of dollars on a facility operating at 3.6% capacity when city revenue is down by at least $40 million. If the city spends $18 million on jailhouse 50 to 100 people each night, that is spending $500 to $1,000 per detainee per night. Keeping the jail open is also a potential threat to the public health. If kept open, there remains the risk of population creeping back to pre-COVID numbers. We've already seen an increase in weeks. All models predict that the resurgence of COVID-19 will most likely come from a super spreader type. We ask that you support the amendment to, 1, we want you to zero out the FY21 budget, but realistically, we know that it is possible for you to drastically reduce the FY21 for the Department of Corrections and announce a date certain for the jail closure. We want to ensure $0 are going towards the detention of human beings. 2, we refrain and redeploy current ADOC employees to another city department to do work within their field. 3, the portion of the current budget
slated for personnel costs can and should be reallocated to another Atlanta department, such as Parks and Recreation, or adding the city's budget to help in the matters of transportation and street maintenance. Atlanta public libraries are giving back to our homeless Atlanta population. The time is now. The city's commitment to close and repurpose the jail cannot be reconciled with allocating millions of dollars to its operation in the coming year. Sincerely, Georgia Sanders from Amani Dillon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Keys. I am calling on behalf of Choices, the Center Helping Obesity in Children Successfully, and I wholeheartedly support Councilwoman Boone's initiative to make vending for healthier foods an option, not an option, but a mandate on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta. Choices has been working in the city for 18 plus years fighting childhood and adulthood obesity. Last March, we opened up a community teaching kitchen where we take families and teach them how to cook healthier meals for free. The families come and learn how to use fresh fruits and vegetables. We get items from the local Atlanta Community Food Bank, and we help these families learn how to cook healthier and eat healthier so we can fight obesity and diabetes and hypertension, which plague our community rapidly. And with COVID-19 affecting people with chronic diseases even more harshly, we definitely need to complete this challenge and continue to fight obesity and fight health conditions with better health and food choices for the residents of Atlanta and the citizens that visit Atlanta. So I wholeheartedly support Councilwoman Boone's initiative and resolution to have healthier vending options for the city of Atlanta as a whole. And we ask that you please support and partner with Councilwoman Boone to make this a reality and continue to help us fight obesity and chronic diseases here in Atlanta. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Christine Hall. I'm with Georgia Society for Public Health Education, or Georgia SOPHE. We are a statewide organization for health educators in public and community health, with more than 200 members. We advocate for policies that will provide all Georgia residents, including those in the city of Atlanta, with the opportunity to live healthy lives in healthy communities. I am here to support Councilmember Andrea Boone's Healthy Seed Procurement Resolution. This resolution calls on the city's chief health officer and chief procurement officer to develop a healthy food procurement policy and related nutrition standards and apply the policy to future city contracts. Local nutrition policies can have a positive impact in promoting healthy eating among city residents and help address a contributing factor to significant nutrition-related chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Our organization, Georgia SOPHE, can support such policies through our partnerships and education. The focus on food and beverages that are healthy and accessible continues to grow in cities across the nation. This resolution provides City Council the opportunity to promote nutrition and fight chronic diseases. Georgia SOPHE supports a significant step for the City of Atlanta because it would give residents a new tool for eating well and promoting their health. I respectfully urge the Atlanta City Council to support the Healthy Food Procurement Resolution introduced by Councilmember Boone. Thank you so much for your time and consideration, and have a great day. Bye.
Good afternoon. This is Moki Macias, Executive Director for the Atlanta Fulton Pre-Arrest Diversion Initiative. I was calling because I wanted to share that I have had the pleasure of serving on the Transforming Atlanta City Detention Center Task Force over the past year and have been really impressed with the thoughtful and creative process of discussing how to, as a city, move forward with repurposing the Atlanta City Jail in accordance with what we know are best practices related to addressing behavioral health outside of the criminal justice system and moving away from incarcerating people or detaining people related to crimes of poverty and survival. The Atlanta Fulton Pre-Arrest Diversion Initiative is one one step in that direction. I'm proud to be a part of that, which has received so much support from both city and county governments. And I really hope that in this year's budget, we're able to continue moving forward by considering how to reallocate funding that would be going to the city detention center to incarcerate, a very small number of people because of the reforms that have been made, and instead be using those funds towards repurposing the building and reinvesting in those supports and strategies and programs that actually address the root causes of many of the behaviors, and being creative about how we can address other issues that right now end up landing people in that jail, and instead could be addressed in other ways. So I think that there are a lot of really wonderful people who I've gotten a chance to work with that are currently working at the Atlanta City Detention Center, and I am hopeful that there are new opportunities for them to be engaged in serving the city of Atlanta and the public in ways that are ultimately more conducive to creating the kind of safe and well community that we all deserve, and moving us away, again, from incarcerating people for very low-level crimes and often issues related to mental health, substance use, and poverty. So I hope that this committee will consider how we can be creative and forward-thinking with the creation of this budget in this unprecedented time. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Breezy. I am the Community Activity Director of the American Heart Association, and I am calling. I just wanted to comment on the healthy food procurement resolution that's being read today. During this unprecedented time, few of us are visiting public places and many are working from home, but I do think we can envision a time when we'll all be back to parks and rec centers and to City Hall. And when we do, supporting health has never been more important. The data coming from COVID shows that disparities exist with those being significantly impacted. And that data is showing that having chronic conditions like hypertension, obesity, diabetes, and heart disease increases your chance of serious health outcomes from COVID. Creating a culture of health where the healthy choice is the easy choice has never been more important. The American Heart Association supports setting nutrition standards for city and buildings, and the resolution being read today is a great first step. We support legislation that would require the food and beverages served in city and buildings to meet strong nutrition standards, such as the American Heart Association's or food service guidelines for federal facilities. We're also committed to helping the Chief Health Officer and Chief Procurement Officer develop strong nutrition guidelines. Thank you for your consideration of creating a culture of health for employees, residents, and visitors.
Members of Council, my name is Che Johnson Long. I'm the Director of Decarceration Strategies at the Racial Justice Action Center, as well as a member of the Reimagine ACDC Task Force. I'm speaking to you today as a committee responsible for offering an amendment to the full budget for full council. There is an amendment currently that can be voted on. I'm here to encourage each of you to support an amendment to move the currently allotted $18 million out of the Department of Corrections and put this funding towards jobs and services, which will help the city recover from the public health crisis. I've been an integral part of Reimagine ACDC, and this process has been an inspiring one, bringing together members of the mayor's office, community members, and justice experts to vision repurposing that facility into a more fiscally and socially responsible one. The work from this initiative has put Atlanta on the map for progressive criminal justice reforms and the visionary shift of resources from harmful, ineffective responses to real public safety and health. That's why I simply cannot believe that $18 million or even $17 million or 15 or 10 million could go to a facility that is currently holding only between 10 and 50 people per night. This committee must do the math. The current budget means spending
$498 per person per night. The fiscal absurdity is obvious. The thing I find so inspiring about the city is that there's constant innovation happening here. The development of the pre-arrest diversion initiative and the ending of our contract with ICE, the commitment to close and repurpose ACDC, these are all bold and creative ways to reduce violence in the city and increase access to health services for all Atlantans. Atlanta has been increasingly touted as a leader in the criminal justice reform field, and many other southern cities are already looking to us for innovative ways to solve citywide problems. Don't let that reputation be tarnished by wasting millions in a time of financial hardship. Again, I urge you to support the upcoming budget amendment that will finally close the extra city jail and redirect that $18 million currently allocated to the ADFC in the proposed city budget to protect the health and wellness of all Atlantans. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Deborah Scott calling from Georgia Stand Up. And I just want to thank you, first of all, for the hard decisions that you have to make every day in helping to administer a budget for the city of Atlanta. The city of Atlanta is going through a difficult time and will continue to go through a difficult time. And a lot of these decisions are going to rest in your hands. And we know that as you're looking at closing the jail, and thank you so much for voting to close the city jail, but as you're moving towards that, having $18 million in the city budget for the jail that houses 50, maybe 100 people per night at max, at a tune of $500 to $1,000 per detainee per night, is a good place in which you can cut. You have $18 million. You have employees, almost 200 employees that are still working there, and you have a jail that is pending closure. So the best thing that you could probably do is to reallocate that $18 million and put it into other departments that will receive those workers and will help to retrain them and provide good workers for their department. You don't have to allocate $18 million to a jail that's going to close. You know that you have to take care of your people. So please make sure those folks are retrained and reassigned to other departments so that they can keep their benefits and so that the workers of the city of Atlanta, which are your most valuable assets, are taken care of. We know that you will make the right decision. We stand by the coalition and say the jail has to close. It needs to close ASAP. And there's a responsible way to do it. And that's first by taking care of the workers. That means making sure there is money for their training, for their pension, for their benefits in these other departments where their new jobs will be. So let's take the heartache out of the situation and say we have $18 million, we have workers we have to take care of, and we can do it. So please zero out the Department of Corrections budget and make sure that that money, please just make sure the City of Atlanta employees are taken care of by allocating the $18 million in other departments. Thank you so much, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. My name is Ron Shakir. I'm calling to talk to a finance committee that will take into hard consideration what the impact of legislation on the African American community. And if you do that, that would be the umbrella for fairness and justice for all communities and all African American, Caucasians, and brown and all people. Most the greatest disparities is in the same communities that deliver the services so needed to our communities. streets, and in hospitals, and in transportation. And I would hope that you would measure the impact of the economy in a city who separates itself in the southeast with transportation of the busiest airport, and one that have a booming or growing convention business in the southeast and in the country, one of the largest. I imagine that we're in the top 10, maybe in the top 5. And then we're going to create barriers of having walking, transportation, or bicycle transportation and scooter transportation. We see how that has been a terrible decision. And instead of looking at it, we're going to expand upon it and give the best housing, political power, pushing people out of the place that one commercial they bring us together. And that's a home, our house, housing. It's going to give African Americans 5, 10, 20% of affordable housing, which is questionable. That's not even being affordable with the economic gaps in the city that between African Americans rise to the bottom of. But it's nothing greater than the insult of saying now create a barrier between people being able to go to work and travel, to get in their cars and go, because we have what we have built on in transportation on Martin Luther King. We're going to shrink everything down and put flowers in the middle of the street and call it progress, while our new neighbors order their grass and they walk to the transportation and to the event halls.
Good afternoon, members of the Finance Exec Committee. My name is Clotilde Rivera. I'm the director of the Racial Justice Action Center and a founder of the Communities Over Cages campaign. And I'd like to appreciate several of you who've had a chance to speak with, and we look forward to connecting to others who we've reached out to and haven't heard back from yet. I know and appreciate that you all have a difficult task in front of you, namely finding ways to reduce the budget and ensure that this budget focuses in on the most important thing right now, which is protecting the safety and health of the people of Atlanta in this crisis and its aftermath. As you all know, currently there's $18 million allocated to the Department of Corrections in the proposed budget to operate a mostly empty jail. And as you also know, there's clearly intention for this to be reduced, as there is almost total consensus that the current proposal is indefensible. But as a campaign representing over 50 community organizations and thousands of individual Atlantans, I want to urge you, each of you, to support an amendment that moves beyond a simple reduction by a few $1 million. The closing of APDC and the moving of dollars from this kind of failed criminal legal system into one that keeps Atlanta safe and healthy has been a long time in coming. Many years of work and over a year of specific planning and preparation through Reimagine APDC has been put into this facility, and there stand clear and thoughtful proposals on how to safely close the jail and retain, retrain, and redeploy the workers into a department and into positions where they can be of true service to the city. Now is the time. The city cannot simultaneously prioritize the health and safety of its residents and throw $18 million away into an almost empty and yet still potential hotspot of a jail. Cities across the nation are pivoting from this crisis because this virus, in no uncertain terms, has shown us the cost of decades of divesting from community wellness and health equity and investing in cages and cuffs. It is literally killing people. The City of Atlanta has an opportunity here to turn this around, and we look forward to each of your support on an amendment that brings the budget for operation of the jail as close to zero as possible, given transition time, and redeploys the workers and the resources into keeping Atlantans healthy and safe. Thank you.
Hi, this is Chris Rivers, Political Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Georgia. On behalf of the ACLU of Georgia, I urge this committee to drastically reduce the fiscal year 2021 budget to eliminate the $18 million currently allocated to the Atlanta Department of Corrections. The Declaration of Independence outlined a bold vision for America, a nation in which there would be equal justice for all. But more than 200 years later, it is yet to be achieved. As a society, we are still plagued by the harms of income inequality, criminalization of poverty, and mass incarceration and their infringement on our civil rights and civil liberties. The city of Atlanta has been an example for the state of Georgia and the nation in taking responsible and effective steps towards addressing these aforementioned concerns. But Mayor and the Atlanta City Council have the power and responsibility to do more than just start with addressing the $18 million budget allocations for the Atlanta Department of Corrections. Right now, Atlanta's revenue is down by over $40 million. And the city has one of the highest rates of income inequality in the country. It would be irresponsible and unwise to waste millions of dollars on a facility operating at less than 4% capacity. If the city spends the allocated budget amount on a facility that only houses less than 100 people each night, that would equate to spending $500 to $1,000 per incarcerated individual per night. It will be much more prudent to spend $18 million on providing community support programs for the poor and marginalized citizens. Atlanta could be spending the $18 million on programs like educational and vocational training, like money management and job training programs, and mental health services. Such practices would be much more effective in providing proper rehabilitation services and reduce recidivism. Investment, not incarceration, is how we improve safety, is how we work to create a more just and equal society that works for all people. Thank you.
Thanks to you, committee members and staff, and special greetings to you, citizens of Atlanta, who are observing your government in action. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. I come to ask for greater transparency and vetting relative to item I-20, Resolution 20-R-3970. That resolution calls for reducing the office budgets of city council members and council presidents. We members of the public have the right to assume that the current office budgets are the right office budgets. Otherwise, it is to be presumed that you elected officials would have made adjustments before now. As it stands, we, the members of the public, have no idea how well or how harshly office staff persons are treated. Danger lurks here. This legislation needs to be vetted by way of the neighborhood planning system before any further action is taken. And I especially ask that you take the necessary steps to have this legislation placed on the neighborhood planning agenda for the upcoming June 3rd meeting. I find it only fair to caution you that any attempt you make to add any new information to the tightly controlled agenda of NPUR will be met with fierce resistance from the NPUR 9, Anthony Robinson, Colin Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Renette L. Scott, Albert White, Allison Hathaway, Mary Williams, and the NPUR 9 cohorts. Stay safe, be blessed, have a great day.
Hi, my name is David Cloud. I'm a resident of the Edgewood neighborhood and a public health researcher at the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine. In Atlanta, I'm a board member of the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition and a doctoral student at the Rollins School of Public Health at Emory. I have more than a decade of experience studying the relationships between criminal justice policy, incarceration, and community health. I'm submitting a public statement today to urge City Council to support an upcoming budget amendment that would finally close the city's extra jail and redirect that $18 million in ways that would better protect the health and wellness of Atlantans for the future. we should be asking ourselves right now why we would spend $18 million more to support a facility that's operating at 3.6% of its capacity, especially when city revenue is down by about $20 million. That's about $500 to $1,000 per detainee per night. There are many other things that this money could be spent on that would translate to better health to individuals and the community as a whole. For example, support for addiction recovery services, support of housing, job training, city parks, all the things we know that are critical to building a healthy and vibrant city. So we recognize at this time a lot of that money is to support the workforce that currently works in the Department of Corrections. If we want to build a better city, we think how we can zero out the money for the Department of Corrections and retrain and redeploy people who work for the Department of Corrections to work in different sectors of the city that we know are critical to improving the health of the city. Keeping the jail open is also a public health threat in the wake of this pandemic. We know that jails are the epicenters, much like nursing homes, for the COVID-19 crisis. By keeping the jail open and having the workforce still show up there, we're creating an additional risk at a time when we should be thinking about prevention and getting through this pandemic. Lastly, I just wanted to say, it's obvious from the bookings in recent months that this jail can close immediately, and certainly within the first couple months of 2021. We have to move forward with a plan to close and repurpose the jail. And taking this money and being creative and bold, we can show the rest of the city, society, and everyone who's committed to health, justice, and equity that it can be done in Atlanta. And I just wanted to say from a public health perspective how critical it is that we act on this immediately. Thank you for your time.
Is that the end of public comment?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, thank you so much to everybody who has called in to express their views to us, and we will definitely take that into consideration. And Ms. Kempson-Wright, can you just read our protocol on how we're conducting the meeting today?
Yes. This Finance Executive Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and as in accordance with the official code of Georgia, 5014-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert's Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public has been granted access to the meeting by the following conference phrases: toll-free access 1-877-579-6743, conference ID 831-599-1256, which was noted on the Thursday, May 7, 2020 public meeting notice. The public may also access and view the meeting on Channel 26, citycouncilatlanta.ga.gov, the City Council website, or the Council's Facebook and Twitter pages via ATL Council. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council Finance Executive Committee presentation page. The agenda was published and made available on May 22nd, via AtlantaCityGAIQM2.com. The public was able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6066 up to 1 hour prior to this meeting. These comments have been played during the public comment portion of the meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to mute their phones and speakers. Additionally, speakers must be acknowledged by the presiding officer prior to speaking. Each council member is requested to open your Outlook email and minimize the screen. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Ms. Kempson-Wright. This brings us to our presentations and status reports. We have 4 today. We will hear about Centennial Yards in 2 weeks. And we're going to begin with the Georgia General Assembly update, and I believe that Ms. Latipo is going to give that presentation. Is Ms. Latipo ready? If not, we can jump to the next one and come back.
Hello? Hello? Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Just briefly, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Fatima Latipo, Director of the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, and I just have a very brief update for you today on what's going on with the Georgia General Assembly. You should have a kind of a 1-2 pager that I shared with council staff. Do you have that? So just briefly, as I'm sure everyone knows, the Georgia General Assembly has been on recess since March the 13th. The Speaker and the Lieutenant Governor have been in discussions about when to reconvene the legislature. The House is looking at June the 11th, and the Senate is looking at Monday, June 15th, and they are still in discussions as to what that final date will be. Both chambers have been having joint appropriations hearings. There's been lots of discussion on the budget and how they're going to make pretty significant reductions in the state budget, up to 14% and perhaps even more, depending on how much funding they get from the CARES Act and other outside issues. And then finally, just a status update on our legislative agenda items. We are still waiting for the session to reconvene to know exactly if these items will be moving forward. There's still a lot of discussion as to what other bills besides the budget the legislature is planning to take up. But our development impact fee bill is Senate Bill 322, a little error there, but Senate Bill 322 has crossed over to the House and is awaiting a hearing in the House Governmental Affairs Committee. And then our local piece of legislation, House Bill 1167, was introduced. Local bills have a little longer to cross over. That bill has received the required number of signatures for it to pass. So when the legislature convenes, that bill should appear on the consent calendar to move over to the Senate side. And that's the latest from the Georgia General Assembly. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Latipo. And if members will just hit their speaker button or send me a message if you have a question, I'll get you in the lineup. I have 1 or 2 questions, and I'll see if anybody else has some. When the General Assembly went out, how many days were left in the session?
11. So they ended on day 29.
Okay. And they have to pass their budget by June 30th?
Correct.
Okay.
And so the only thing that they're required to do constitutionally is pass a budget. So they can pass that budget and adjourn sine die, or they can continue to take up other things. But the budget itself has to be passed by June 30th.
Okay. But they're not required to meet for the full 40 days if they don't choose to.
Correct.
Okay. Have you heard if they are considering taking any actions to change the rules so that they could in the future meet remotely?
So I have been hearing some rumblings about that, especially as it relates to quorum. So even in the hearings that they've had this week, the in-person hearings, there were a few of the members of the committee at the Capitol, but the others were attending remotely. So I do anticipate that they will make some changes to the rules, even if we get through this, but to have some ability to be able to do this if future challenges arise with not being able to be present in the Capitol.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Anybody else have questions? Ms. Latipo, while she's with us? All right. Well, thank you for your report. We look forward to hearing from you as things move forward over the state.
All right. Thank you.
All right, next up we have our internal auditor's quarterly update brought to us by Amanda Noble.
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you. You're on.
Good afternoon. Thank you. This is Amanda Noble, City Auditor, and I think Stephanie Jackson, Deputy City Auditor, is also on the line. We're here to present our quarterly report. As a reminder, under the Charter, we're responsible for conducting performance and financial audits of all departments, offices, boards, activities, and agencies of the city. And as you know, the IG legislation shifted the responsibility for independent procurement review to the newly established Office of Inspector General. But until the Inspector General is hired, we are continuing to perform the function. So the 11 weeks since our last quarterly review has coincided with the City Hall closure. We've been working remotely since March 13th, and you last heard from us March 11th. We've transitioned pretty well to remote work. All auditor office employees had already been assigned laptops, and 4 of us had VPN access to city systems. We were able to gather hard copy data and copy electronic files for work in progress to OneDrive the day before the shutdown. And for the most part, we've been able to use Microsoft Teams to replicate our in-office procedures. We have had a few technology challenges with occasional disruptions to internet access, and some of the work is more difficult without a printer or a second monitor, but mostly we've made a smooth transition. We've had some challenges scheduling meetings with other departments or outside agencies that either had a bumpier transition to remote work or have had to shift priorities based on emergency operations or the financial response. So, we're aware of roles in the emergency and have worked to avoid disrupting other agencies and have extended deadlines and requests for information accordingly. If you could flip to the first slide, please. The infographic summarizes our activity for the year. There's not much change from last quarter except in the iPro numbers. We released 6 audit reports and 1 investigation report through March. We have 3 additional audits very near completion, but as of now, it is uncertain when we can release them. Releases, audits, and committee meetings are suspended while city facilities are closed to the public. We've released 24 iPro reports this year so far on solicitations totaling an estimated value of $330 million. The reports identified 99 findings. About half of the findings, just over half actually, don't require a response from the Department of Procurement. These are issues such as more than 2 addenda issued during the advertisement period, which can indicate unclear scope, or the city receiving fewer than 3 responses, which indicates a lack of healthy competition, or the solicitation of a redo of one that was previously canceled. We flag these as areas of concern and note them in the reports, but there isn't a remedy on a particular solicitation. Most of the findings requiring a response are related to the department's responsiveness review. A number of our reports flagged inconsistencies in proponents' answers about whether the company had done business with the city and inconsistencies in how DOP handles the issues. We have also flagged JV agreements with no notary seals, missing signatures, or other missing forms. We've noted a lack of clarity as well as a lack of consistency in DOP decisions about whether certain forms are required by each JV partner. Often the remedy for these issues is documenting the waiver of a particular requirement. Ultimately, the issue can be resolved or at least reduced through clarifying and standardizing procedures. We've identified at least 1 instance of a conflict of interest that the Department of Procurement resolved through deeming the proponent non-responsive, and we've identified a few mathematical errors in bid documents that either didn't affect the outcome of the award or could be corrected prior to contract execution. Right now we have 44 solicitations under review. We have not conducted follow-up on audit recommendations during the closure. We plan to start follow-up meetings again in July, coordinated through the COO's office. As we reported last quarter, earlier in the year, we met with 9 departments to review the implementation status of 151 recommendations and closed 73 recommendations. We currently have 116 open recommendations from 28 audit reports. The next slide. These are the 9 audits in progress. I'm sorry, my cat joined us. As I said, 1 audit is complete but not released, and 2 are near completion. The work in progress reflects revisions to the FY20 audit plan to add 3 topics that City Council requested. We plan to start another audit next month. The planned audit of APD licenses and permits is next on the schedule, but we may need to shift the timing depending on whether we're still working remotely and on the availability of electronic records. So we'd be happy to answer questions.
All right, does anybody have questions for Ms. Noble? All right, well, thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate the information and your service, and we will look forward to hearing from you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the Georgia Open Records Act update from Kristen Denius.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. It's so nice to be able to speak with you all. Just like Amanda, the last time I spoke with you was 2 days before the shutdown. So it's nice to have a concrete connection with the city again. I am happy to be able to provide you this very brief update. If you want to go ahead and flip to the first slide is just the hello slide. Second slide, I will talk about public record requests that are ongoing now during the City Hall closure. We are continuing to receive and respond to requests, primarily electronically. Due to the closure, it is difficult to access requests that have been mailed in, although there are procedures in place for doing that. The time frame is a bit delayed, as you can imagine, due to limited access. The open records coordinators within each department have access to their dedicated open records email inboxes, and that is the primary source for receiving Open Records Act requests at this time. I do want to say, give a big thank you to the staff in AIM, as well as the Open Records employees for their flexibility and support in getting all of that set up very quickly and confirming that those email inboxes would be accessible remotely. I also want to give a very big thank you to members of the public as we work through this unusual time. The experience so far has been that the public is being very patient and very understanding, given the situation and any potential delays. I will say that records that only exist in hard copy that are requested are still being provided, but there is a delay that is associated with that because of the limited access to City Hall. And again, people are being very understanding about that. For any members of the public or council members who get asked, the easiest way to send an Open Records Act request to the city during this remote situation is via access through the city's webpage at atlantagA.gov. At the top right of the main webpage is a tab that says I want to, and if you click on that, you'll find a drop-down menu, and you can select Request Open Records. And that will take you to my transparency website, where you can find contact information for me if you need assistance in determining who the proper custodian of a request might be. But it also includes a link to the contact information for each custodian for each department. Next slide, please. The other thing that I wanted to give you an update about is the Open Records Management Software Procurement Project. I am very pleased to tell you that despite the lockdown, this project is proceeding basically on the schedule that we had started on. The RFP was issued to the public on April 20th, and we are expecting responses due on June 6th. Actually, I think that's supposed to be June 12th. I'm sorry. And then we will be, shortly after that, convening the evaluators to evaluate all of the different proposals. And we're targeting legislative cycle 15 for the introduction of legislation to authorize a contract once we have a proponent that's recommended. If everything goes according to plan, we expect to begin implementation in September with the hope to complete that by the end of the year. And we are anticipating go live during the first quarter of calendar year 2021. And I'm very excited about all of that. Obviously the proposals have not been due back yet, so we don't have any details about the total number of proponents, but we have received positive feedback and a number of good questions during the process. So I am hopeful that we are going to have a lot of good responses to choose from. Next slide, please. So finally, I wanted to give you guys an update about open record compliance training. Unfortunately, the council training that was going to be during their spring retreat obviously has to be rescheduled, but we will get that in place as soon as we can, all things considered. Also, quarterly training for our open records coordinators would have been in March, and of course, here we are. That will be rescheduled as soon as City Hall reopens, and we can make that happen. Similarly, the monthly training for new employees at new employee orientation, which had been proceeding as planned until March, will also resume once City Hall opens. I am currently coordinating with the law department to create a virtual training for the Department of Aviation, and that will happen in early to mid-June. And I'm hoping that experience will provide me sort of a go-by in developing additional training for other departments if we need to do that during this current lockdown. And finally, that's everything I have. My last slide is just a prompt for questions. If there are any, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Denius? Let me see if I've heard from anybody. All right, it doesn't seem like there are any questions today. So thank you very much, Ms. Denius. It was good to get an update on how your office is doing.
Thank you.
We are now going to move to the Department of Finance COVID-19 update from our CFO, Roosevelt Council. So if we can pull up the CFO's presentation, I believe we're ready for him.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all committee members. As a result of COVID-19, City Council has introduced legislation that requires the CFO to produce reports that provide details on funding that is related to this pandemic. And this is what this presentation is about. Deputy CFO Tina Wilson will present this report. Ms. Wilson? Ms. Wilson?
I believe they're working on that.
Okay, just got muted. Good afternoon. Thank you. This is Tina Wilson, Deputy CFO. We'll have a brief presentation on the COVID-19 funds. If you'll flip to the next slide, we'll begin. As Mr. Council mentioned, the City of Atlanta recently adopted 4 pieces of legislation requiring the CFO to prepare and submit certain reports related to the financial impacts of COVID-19. 20-R-3773 requires reporting on all federal and state funds the city has or will receive to assist with battling the harmful effects of the pandemic. 20-R-3774 requires reporting all funds that will be contributed to nonprofit and philanthropic organizations as part of the city's emergency assistance in response to the pandemic. 20-R-3775 20-R-3787 requires reporting donations received by the city from individuals, entities, and organizations in support of the performance of its functions in an amount not to exceed $5 million in total. And 20-R-3914 requires reporting donations received by the city from individuals, entities, and organizations of food and food service in an amount not to exceed $20,000 in total. Next slide. The city will receive $1.3 million in the form of the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Grant for APD. This program will provide funding to assist in preventing, preparing for, and responding to the coronavirus. Allowable projects and purchases include, but are not limited to, overtime, equipment, including law enforcement and medical personal protective equipment, hiring supplies such as gloves, masks, sanitizer, training, travel expenses, and addressing the medical needs of inmates in local detention centers. The city will also receive $338.5 million from the FAA. This grant award is provided in accordance with the CARES Act to help offset a decline in revenues arising from diminished airport operations and activities as a result of the COVID-19 public health emergency. The funds are only for purposes directly related to the airport and can include the reimbursement of an airport's operational and maintenance expenses incurred no earlier than January 20th of this year, and debt service payments where payments occur on or after April 14th of this year. Finally, the city has already received the $88.4 million from the U.S. Department of Treasury. None of these funds have been spent yet. Next slide. As it relates to nonprofit and philanthropic organizations, the city has transferred a total of $1.25 million to Georgia's Own Foundation from the initial executive order of $7 million to provide financial support to the employees of City of Atlanta contractors. Georgia's Own administers the program and has received and approved 585 applications and dispersed funds for 578 of those applications, dispersing $1.156 million towards that program. And each of those awards are $2,000. Next slide. The next several slides report on the donations. We have a summary slide first, of which the city has received in like-kind value, $336,000 worth of various food and supplies. And the top table is showing the major, or who provided the donation, and in the bottom section shows you which area was a recipient of the donation. The next two slides, which I won't go into all of the detail, but it is line item by line item what the donation was, provided by whom, and what they provided. Sorry, it's a little bit of an eye chart, but it has the detail that we think is needed for the reporting out to the ethics officer. And if you'll move to the last slide, slide 8. This last slide shows the city's expenditure update. The first two sections highlight the two executive orders and the progress thereof. The first $7 million, of which we have spent $3.6 million, and where we have spent those funds. The second section, which is the $1.5 million executive order, of which we have spent $182,000 for sheltering options. And below that, we have other expenses such as cleaning supplies and sanitizing, personal protective equipment, of which the city has spent just over $2 million. And the bottom section shows hazard pay and other personnel expenses. And the city has spent $7.6 million. In total, the city has spent $13.5 million towards COVID-19 related expenses. That concludes the presentation, and I'll open it up for any questions.
Oops, I was on mute. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Wilson about her presentation? I think Mr. Matsakite is first. Mr. Matsakite,
thank you.
Floor.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Ide. And thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to ask, how much of this money that we have expended, especially of the $8.5 million, do we think would be eligible for reimbursement through the CARES Act? Or essentially, how much money that we spent from our reserves do we think would be eligible for reimbursement from CARES, is specifically my question.
Well, you may know that we have a cost recovery team in place, which is working with our consultant to evaluate each and every expense that we have coded to COVID-19 so that we can leverage fully any reimbursements that are eligible, as well as those that are eligible under CARES. Now that there is been a recent announcement that the FEMA match can come from CARES money, we will have to reevaluate and see what is the best use of leveraging those funds. Initially, we would like to see the hazard pay as a first tranche of use of the CARES money so far, which is a little over $7 million in this fiscal year. So that would be our initial step, but we are still evaluating what is the best use of the CARES money, as well as some recommendations that you will shortly see around the allocation of those money.
Yeah, if I could add, this is CFO Counsel. We feel very comfortable that the PPE expenditures and cleaning, the 2.1, we clearly qualify. And as we look deeper, as Ms. Wilson mentioned, we feel that of that 3.6 million, there's a good chance that we may be able to recover, if not all of it, the majority of it, through the CARES Act and FEMA reimbursement.
That's great to hear. So it sounds like a good portion of the $8.5 million, well, I guess even more than that, could potentially be eligible for reimbursement. That's great to hear. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Do any other council members have questions for the finance team? All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Then we are going to wrap up our book. Let me just see if I'm getting the message. All right. We are going to wrap up our presentations and status reports. So thank you, Ms. Wilson and Mr. Counsel. Stick around because we'll be coming back to you later in the meeting, but appreciate your update. Ms. Kempson-Wright, can you read our consent agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. Item number 1 is 20-01394, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to create a special revenue fund for Recording CARES Act 2020 relief funds received from the federal government and amending the FY 2020 budget by adding authorized approved expenditures to anticipations and appropriations CARES Act 2020 relief funds in the aggregate amount not to exceed $88,434,611.30. Item number 2 is 20-01395, an ordinance by the Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to consolidate all organizations within the Department of Finance, Office of Revenue, into the Revenue and Collections Department. Item number 3 is 20-01396, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary for the additional acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the Joseph E. Lowry Complete Street Project, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisitions of such property interests, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney in the event negotiations are unsuccessful to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of taking method per the official code of Georgia, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, all contracted work and payments for property interests to be paid from account numbers listed herein. Item number 4 is 20-01397, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to change the names of various offices within the Department of Finance to better align business operations and staff responsibilities by amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 6 Departments, Division 2, Department of Finance, Subdivision 3, Bureaus and Divisions of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. Item number 5 is 20-01398, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor or her designee on behalf of the city to execute all documents necessary for the acquisition of certain property interests necessary for the 15th Street extension, authorizing negotiations with property owners for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing title searches, appraisals, surveys, and any other items necessary for the acquisition of such property interests, authorizing the mayor and the city attorney in the event negotiations are unsuccessful to institute condemnation proceedings pursuant to the declaration of taking method via the official code of Georgia, waiving certain provisions of Article 10 Real Estate and Procurement Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Transportation, all contracted work and payments for property interests to be paid from account numbers listed herein, and item number 6 is 20-01399, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the Chief Financial Officer on behalf of the Department of City Planning to pay outstanding invoices to Atlanta Downtown Improvement District Incorporated for servicing the government district grounds in an amount not to exceed $110,115.00. All outstanding invoices shall be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for the purposes.
Thank you, Ms. Kempton-Wright. So all of those first reads will move on to council next week and come back to us in 2 weeks for our consideration. Brings us to our ordinances for second read. Item number 7 is 20-01346, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee to authorize the mayor or her designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to exercise renewal term option 2 of sole source agreement number FC8344 for the purchase of enterprise geographic information system software licenses, maintenance, and technical support with Environmental Systems Research Institute pursuant to Section 2-1191 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances for a year effective February 10th, 2020 to February 9th, 2021, with one-year renewal option remaining in an amount not to exceed $775,000. All contracted work be charged to and paid from the funding numbers listed here, and for other purposes. Because we are doing this retroactively, I'm going to make a motion to make an amendment to include our ratifying language in accordance with Section 2-1163C, remedies after award of Article 10 of the Procurement Real Estate Code in the Code of Ordinances.
Shook seconds.
All right, will you please open the vote on the amendment?
The vote is open.
And I don't know if everybody
is voting affirmative.
Matsakite, affirmative.
Okay, I have 6 yeses, 0 no's. But that's missing. Mr. Dickens, you're on and you said affirmative?
That's correct. Affirmative.
Okay, so if you'll add Mr. Dickens, that'll be 7 yeses, 0 no's. So the amended paper is before us. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Will you please open the vote on the amended paper?
The vote is open.
All right, Dickens and Matsakite.
Affirmative.
Affirmative. Affirmative, Dickens.
All right. That's 7 yeses, 0 no's. Takes us to the next item. Item number 8 is 20-1347, an ordinance by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the CFO to pay outstanding invoices to Innovise, Inc. for software license renewals and reinstatement charges on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management in accordance with Section 2-1163 of Article 10 Procurement Real Estate Code of the City, an amount not to exceed $206,872.78. All invoices to be charged to and paid from the funds departmental organization account numbers listed and for other purposes. I will make a motion to adopt, but I do have a question for Department of Watershed Management. Is there somebody on the line on this? Do we have Mr. Baccaro or somebody from Watershed Management?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Deputy Commissioner Rob Baccaro, Department of Watershed Management. I believe you have a question.
I did have a question. Is this a contract that we are still operating under, or is this just clearing up old invoices?
Clearing up old invoices. So we've had a contract, we've been using Innovise. It's software that we've been using to model our sanitary sewer system and water distribution system. We've had it for many years. So this ordinance will allow us to pay our outstanding invoices of $206,872.78. So we do, going forward though, we have set up a sole source agreement with Innovising to continue services with effect from July 1, 2020.
Okay, so this is just getting us up to date, and then we will, under the new contract, we'll move forward and continue to use the services.
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. All right, was there a second by Mr. Shook?
D.
All right, if you please open the vote.
Matsakite, affirmative.
The vote is open.
Okay, and Dickens?
Yes, Dickens, affirmative.
All right. That makes 7 yeses, 0 no's. This item's favorable. Item number 9 is 20-1348, an ordinance by Finance Exec Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to exercise renewal term option number 1 of the cooperative purchasing agreement number FC 10650 with Process Information Systems, Inc. pursuant to Section 2-1602 of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, utilizing the Georgia statewide contract number 9999 SPD T2012050100006 on behalf of the Atlanta Information Management for 1 year effective April 15, 2020 to April 16, 2021, with 2 remaining 1-year renewals, an amount not to exceed $242,486.64. Because we're a little bit behind on this, doing it retroactively, I'm going to make an amendment to add the ratifying language and be in accordance with Section 2-1163C, remedies after award of Article 10 of the Procurement of Real Estate Code and the Code of Ordinances. So that's my motion to amend.
Second.
All right, will please open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open.
All right, Mr. Dickens, what say you?
Yes.
All right, Matsakite?
Yes.
All right, that makes that 7 yeses, 0 noes. The amended legislation's before us. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Will you please open the vote?
The vote is open.
All right, Dickens,
Yay.
Mascate.
Yes.
All right, that makes 7 yeses, 0 noes. The paper as amended is favorable. That takes us to item number 10, 20-1349, an ordinance by Finance Exec to amend the fiscal year 2020 general fund budget by anticipating and appropriating $422,818.20 for the receipt of insurance reimbursement funds related to the March 2018 cyber attack and for other purposes. And I have a quick question, I suppose, either for Mr. Brantley or Finance. This is great that we're getting a little bit more money. Do we anticipate this is the end of it, or do we have other reimbursements still potentially outstanding? If this more finance, anybody know the answer to that?
Yes, this is CTO Hayes. We have submitted some additional expenditures to the risk department, so there could be additional reimbursements coming in.
Okay, and we've gotten about $6.1 million reimbursed to date?
I'll defer to Finance for the amount.
Okay. Mr. Counsel, does that sound about right in the ballpark?
Yes, the CFO counsel. That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, Mr. Dickens.
Yay.
Ms. Maxkite.
Yes.
All right. That's
the vote is closed.
Thank you. 7 yeses, 0 noes. That item is favorable. That brings us to item 11, 20-1350, an ordinance by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor to waive the competitive source selection requirements contained in Section 2-1187 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City, to extend contract FC 6737 citywide parking management and fee collection services with Central Parking Systems of Georgia on a month-to-month basis for up to 12 months, effective July 22nd, 2020 through July 21, 2021, on behalf of the Department of Enterprise Asset Management for the purpose of managing and operating parking lots located at 143 Alabama Street and 72 Marietta Street, event parking only. All fees collected should be deposited to the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And I believe if Mr. Lavelle is with us, or
I'm here.
Mr. Okay, just give us an update on what the ultimate plan is with the parking.
This particular lot, although it cites two properties, it really only applies to 72 Marietta Street. The lot at 143 Alabama has been closed. The 72 Marietta parking, daytime it is for watershed employees, and in the after hours it is event parking that has been managed by Central Parking for several years. It generates approximately $100,000 net revenue to the city. It's part of this property, this lot sits atop the production warehouse building that we received from Cox Enterprises in 2009, and it is part of the proposed land deal or property deal with the CIM group in the Gulch that is being negotiated currently, and we certainly hope that this month-to-month ordinance extension for a period up to 1 year by that time that the deal would have been completed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
All right. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Dickens?
Yay.
Mr. Mascate?
Yes.
All right, that is 7 yeses, 0 no's. Item is favorable. Item number 12, 20-1351, an ordinance by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or designee in accordance with Section 2-1163, Article 10, Procurement Real Estate, to ratify and extend cooperative purchasing agreement FC 8170 background screening services with Sterling Infosystems, Inc. on a month-to-month basis retroactively for up to 4 months and 2 days, beginning on February 29, 2020 through June 30, 2020, on behalf of the Department of Human Resources in an amount not to exceed $283,350, all contracted work to be charged to and paid from accounts listed. And I believe we have a substitute that we need to bring forward that will extend the month-to-month until the end of the calendar year.
Second.
That should be in your packet. All right, let's open the vote on bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
All right, Dickens?
Yay.
Mascate?
Yes.
All right, that was 7 yeses, 0 no's. The substitute is before us. Any questions for Human
Move approval on
Resources?
substitute.
All right, I will second that. Open the vote.
The vote is open.
All right, Mr. Dickens?
Yay.
Mr. Mascate?
Yes.
All right, that was favorable on substitute, 7 yeses, 0 no's. Brings us to item number 13. It's 20-1352, an ordinance by Finance Exec to amend Chapter 114 Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan of the Code of Ordinances. Those provide for certain position abolishments, creations, reclassifications, class creations, above entry authorizations, employees, position transfers, position funding, allocation changes, and other personnel actions in line with the fiscal 2021 budget and for other purposes, fondly known as the personnel paper, and we will hold this until at least our June 10th meeting where we will substitute it. So I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Dickens?
Yay.
Mr. Mascate?
Yes.
All right, let's see. Okay, so that is 7, 7 yeses, 0 no's. That item is held. Item number 14, 20-1355. An ordinance by Finance Exec waiving the joint venture notary requirement contained in Section 2-1369.1b of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, Article 10, Procurement Real Estate Code, to execute an agreement with BBH Uptime, a joint venture comprised of Brooksbury, Haney and Associates and Uptime Electric Company, to project number IFB S1200034, North Airfield Ground Lighting Cable Replacement at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, in amount not to exceed $12,272,583.40. All services will be charged to and paid from the account numbers listed here, and for other purposes, we need to make an amendment to attach the iPro. Ms. Tenson-White, did we receive the iPro?
Councilmember, no, we did not. However, we did receive a request to hold this piece temporarily.
Okay. Then we will hold it, and we will amend it when we are together again in 2 weeks. So I'll make a motion to hold.
Second.
Will you please open the vote?
The vote is open.
Yay for Dickens.
All right, Mascate?
Yes.
All right, that's 7 yeses, 0 no's. This paper's held, and we'll hear from Mr. Seldman in 2 weeks. Brings us to item 15, 20-1362, 2, an ordinance by Councilmember Joyce and Shepherd ratifying Executive Order number 2020-83, authorizing the CFO to amend the fiscal year 20 budget by adding to anticipations and appropriations an amount of $88,434,611.30 awarded to the city pursuant to the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act. We are going to hold this paper, but I am going to ask Mr. Keene to please just give us a little walk through what the anticipated uses of this are and allow council members to ask any questions that they have about this paper. So, Mr. John Keene, I will give you the mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Keene, Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the City of Atlanta. And as you mentioned, the intention is that this paper is held and will be brought forth at the next committee meeting. A briefing document was provided to council members on Friday that did describe the process used to develop the initial recommendations and information on those initial recommendations, and I'll talk at the high level about that now. By the next committee meeting, we'll continue to work to further brief and discuss the allocations with council members in order to finalize those allocations. And if desired, we'll plan to present at the next committee meeting, if you would like, Madam Chair. In terms of overall, we went through a process engaging city staff from across the city, really, with expertise in areas to ultimately, in a relatively short period of time, 2 weeks, to engage stakeholders across the city related to the eligible categories and subcategories that were laid out in the coronavirus relief funds guidance. These are funds that are provided by the Department of Treasury, and the Department of Treasury has provided specific guidance as well as has provided FAQ documents related to what is eligible. They have updated that guidance, and I expect that they will likely continue to update that guidance as they get questions. These funds are more flexible than some of the other reimbursable funds like FEMA, and we are working very closely with our legal team in order to make sure that we are appropriately interpreting the guidance. That guidance served as the backbone for what was a framework for conducting the allocations. And so the categories and subcategories that are laid out in the documents that have been provided thus far basically map to the guidance that has been provided by the Department of Treasury related to what is eligible. And so over that 2-week period, those staff members engaged with stakeholders internally or within the community, gathered data to identify two main things. One was, what is the funding need that they were able to identify? And then two, what are potential deployment methods for those funds? And through a process, we then brought that information together and developed an initial recommended allocation across those categories and subcategories, which are the eligible costs. At the highest level, the kind of big bucket categories are related to actions to facilitate compliance with COVID-19 related public health measures. This can include expenses such as those related to our homeless populations, as well as to telework capabilities, expenses for food delivery. The second major bucket is related to medical expenses, and this can include things such as expenses to support public hospitals and clinics, as well as costs of providing COVID-19 testing and tracing. The third major bucket is related to payroll expenses. The fourth major bucket is related to the provision of economic support. That can include items such as consumer grant programs to prevent eviction and assist in preventing homelessness, expenditures related to the provision of grants to small businesses. The last major bucket is what is deemed public health expenses, which relates to items such as the acquisition and distribution of medical and protective supplies, including sanitizing products and personal protective equipment, PPE. So those are the major buckets, and as mentioned, we went through the process to develop those initial allocations based on the data available. As mentioned, the next steps are to work with Council to finalize those allocations, and we certainly appreciate Council's support in ensuring that we can deploy these funds in a timely manner, but also, obviously, an effective manner. So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Motion to hold by Shepherd.
All righty, and we are definitely gonna hold it. I do want to give I had a couple people who were signed up to ask some questions just so they can be digesting this over the next 2 weeks. So, Mr. Shook, I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Yeah, thank you. Is it the administration's desire to bring in outside help to support the monitoring and overseeing of this program?
Thanks for the question, Councilmember Shook. Yes, and Finance, who I believe is still on, can probably speak to some of the details of what they've already done regarding that. They have brought on a consultant to help support the oversight and monitoring, and we have stood up a coordination group. So I'll turn it over to either CFO Council or Deputy CFO Wilson.
Thank you.
Yeah, John is correct. We have brought in a couple of firms, to actually help us navigate this whole process. We actually have advanced the process. We've set up all of the necessary teams, to capture every element. We've also had training by the consultant to the departments to ensure the proper capturing and coding of all COVID-related costs. And we're actually still looking in terms of being able to solidify from them, setting up a dashboard that captures everything that's COVID. A part of the, as a matter of fact, we've actually started the dashboard. The majority of the information that we had as part of our report out today actually came out of that dashboard. But they're also very good at sort of understanding the nuances in applying for reimbursement, which would be more or less FEMA driven. So we feel like that we have established a pretty good process, and this was a decision early on to bring in this kind of expertise to ensure that we don't run into any hurdles, as John mentioned, as we navigate through this pandemic.
Okay, good to know. Two-part question are the costs of paying these consultants reimbursable out of the CARES Act? And then number two, isn't legislation required to bring on the consultants?
Anybody want to give a response to that?
I'm not sure if Mr. Council dropped out. This is Tina Wilson. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Did you catch Mr. Shook's question?
I did. So the costs related to the specialized consultant would be considered an eligible cost under the program, and we have been able to utilize the insurance broker already under contract. They have a arm that is part of their expertise that is assisting with this effort. So we already have a contract in place with Willis Towers Watson.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry. I had basically given that same answer, but I didn't realize I was on mute.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're consistent with your team.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Shook, did that get all your questions answered?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, next up I have Mr. Westmoreland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment, Mr. Keene, I appreciate the really comprehensive memo that you sent out on Friday evening. Had a chance to review that myself, and then spend some time talking with you about it over the weekend. I'm also grateful that we're going to take the next 2 weeks to make sure that we get these allocations absolutely correct before we start to deploy. And we'll say that I am excited and encouraged about the allocations that have been made so far about rental assistance and small business support. I look forward to figuring out ways that we can grow those numbers over the next 2 weeks, because we've got tens of thousands of Atlantans who need to stay in their homes and tens of thousands more who need to keep their jobs. So thank you so much for where we are right now, and look forward to working more in the weeks ahead.
All right, any other questions for Deputy CEO Keene or the finance team on this paper?
Yeah, the Councilman Dickens, I can't hit my button still, my speaker button or anything, but I did want to echo Councilmember Westmoreland's remarks regarding rental assistance and small business assistance. So I as well would like to have input into how we make those things, those appropriations, more so than others. So please reach out to me for a time to discuss. Thanks.
Understood.
All right. And it sounds like from our law department that there will be legislation coming forward on retaining the consultant, but we'll hear more about that next time. All right. Anybody else have questions? Otherwise, there was a motion to hold by Councilmember Shepherd, and I will second that. All right, let's open the vote on the motion to hold.
The vote is open.
Yay for Councilman Dickens.
All right, Master Kite?
Yes for Master Kite.
All right. That was 7 yeses, 0 noes. That item will be held in committee, and we will act on it in 2 weeks. Brings us to item 16, 20-1363, an ordinance by Councilmembers Carla Smith, Joyce Shepherd, Cleta Winslade, authorize the city to forgive rent payments by tenants who lease space at the City of Atlanta neighborhood centers to mitigate adverse effects suffered as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and for other purposes.
Move approval.
Second by Shepherd. All right, you please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens?
Yes.
Kite?
Yes.
All right, that item is favorable. 7 yeses, 0 noes. Item 17 is 20-1367, an ordinance by Councilor Jason Estakite authorizing a donation amount not to exceed $5,000 from the Council District 8 carry-forward account to the Atlanta Police Foundation, Operation SHIELD, to assist the Memorial Park neighborhood with the purchase of a CCTV camera and for other purposes.
Move approval, Master Kite.
Second.
All right. Second, Shook. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Mr. Dickens?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Westmoreland? Mr. Westmoreland, are you still with us? Ms. Kempson, right? I don't see Mr. Westmoreland's vote.
Yeah, sorry. My computer went out. You can mark me as a yes.
Okay. So that's going to make 7 yeses, 0 noes. That item is favorable. brings us to our resolutions. Item 18, 20R 3966, a resolution by Councilor Joyce M. Shepherd authorizing the mayor who designee to enter into a cooperative purchasing agreement with Origami Risk LLC, be designated as CPS 1200497 Risk Management Information System pursuant to Section 2-1602 of the Atlanta Code of Ordinances to purchase a risk management information system utilizing the City of Fort Worth, Texas service agreement. Contract number 53262 for a term of 3 years, effective May 28, 2020, ending May 27, 2023, an amount not to exceed $605,970. No options for renewal. All contract work to be charged to and paid from the funding numbers listed herein and for other purposes. And we heard about this at our last council meeting. There was one question about whether this needs to have the commencement date after the council adoption / mayor approval, which is going to be after May 28th. If somebody from law can just hop in and tell us whether we need to make that amendment instead of making it effective May 28th, that would be helpful. Anybody from the law department can let us know if that would be the better move to move the effective date.
Hello, this is Desmond Dorsey with the law department. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Did you hear my question?
Yes, I did. You will need to put language in there to waive the code because it'll be after. It's pretty much going retroactive by the time it'll be put in place.
Okay, so leave the effective date as May 28th, but put the language in there that, well, hold on one sec, though. Are we doing this as a, we're doing this as a resolution.
You can't waive the code in the resolution.
Right, so can we just make the effective date upon signature by the mayor?
You can do that. I don't see any issue that would be there unless finance has an issue.
This is Jerry Delos.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Jerry Delos, Director of the Office of Enterprise Risk Management. We don't object to that. I just have to make the vendor aware of it, that the date, the effective date has changed to the signature of the mayor.
Okay. I think that's better to do that rather than restart this as an ordinance and make it retroactive. So I'm just going to make it. Okay, I'm just going to make an amendment that it will be effective upon council adoption and signature by the mayor, or approval by the mayor, because she may or may not sign it, I suppose.
Second.
All right. Does the law department think that's a sufficient fix?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Let's open the vote on the amendment.
The vote is open.
All right, Mr. Dickens?
Yes.
Mr. Maxkite?
Yes.
All right, that is seven yeses, 0 no's. That the paper is amended, and I'll make a motion to adopt as amended.
I'll second, but I have a question.
Okay. What's your question, Mr. Shook?
Well, I just want to confirm that since we sent this back to committee, that the vendor did not walk away from the contract.
This is Jerry Delos, Director of the Office of Enterprise Risk Management. The vendor did not walk away from the contract. I had a conversation with the representative yesterday, and they were aware of the process that we had to go through, including before full council and for the signature of the mayor.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, let's open the vote. Mr. Dickens?
Yay.
Mr. Massacote?
Yes.
All right. 7 yeses, 0 no's. This item is favorable as amended. Brings us to item 1920R 3968, a resolution by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone requesting the Chief Health Officer in collaboration with the Chief Procurement Officer to develop a healthy food procurement policy based on nutrition standards derived from the latest scientific data and dietary guidance so as to provide healthier food choices in city-owned or controlled places and vending machines and for other purposes. And colleagues, we heard public comment on this, and there were also some letters of support that are included in this package.
Second, Dickens.
All right, that was Shook and Dickens. All right, please open the vote.
Vote is open.
All right, Ms. Massacote?
Yes.
This item is favorable, 7 yeses, 0 no's. Next item is item 2020R 3970. This is a resolution by Councilmembers Jennifer and I and J.P. Massacote in support of the Atlanta City Council, leading by example and is addressing budget concerns by reducing the fiscal year 2021 office budget of each council member and council president by blank. There's a substitute that actually changes the caption that was in your packet. So let me read the substitute. Let me find the substitute caption. The substitute caption reads, a resolution in support of the Atlanta City Council leading by example and addressing budget concerns by reducing the fiscal year 2021 office budget of the Office of City Council by $340,000 and for other purposes. Although, Ms. Kempson, right, I think that actually needs to be that wasn't quite the amount. It needs to be $340,711, I believe.
Yes, that was the substitute, the last substitute that was forwarded to the committee at 12:39 p.m. And it does read the $340,711.
Okay. So there's a substitute, and I will just give a little background on this resolution. Because we were in a crunch on the budget process this year, the administration, the budget team there, and Office of Innovation and Finance did come up with an overall amount on what they hoped that City Council could reduce its overall budget by in order to create our overall budget and reducing expenses to meet our anticipated revenue shortfall. So that was the $340,711 that was really the request and was included in the mayor's proposed budget. There was not time in putting that together for a consultation with City Council, and so there was sort of just placeholder line item reductions made, but in talking with Mr. Bartlett and others, that was really just intended to get to that number, and it wasn't intended to be an instruction to City Council of how to organize our budget. So this paper was really just a process by which City Council makes the decision to affirm that is the amount that we are willing to reduce our budget by, and to provide some basic guidelines on where that money would come from. And what the substitute says is it would be shared in equal amounts from the Office of Policy and Research and Council Communications would take a third, the Office of Municipal Clerk would take a third, and the offices of each council or council president. So each of those groups would reduce their overall budgets by $113,570. and then as part of the reduction for city council, president, and staff, that amount would be divided by 16, so each office would take a reduction of $7,084, and it would be left up to each office to decide what budget line items that comes from. So whether that comes from carry forward, whether that comes from current year salary. But that was the purpose behind this paper, was just for council to go through its own process of determining where we would be making the changes in our budget. So I will make a motion to bring forth the substitute, and then happy to, any questions or discussions.
Yeah, I'll second that. I don't want to make a lot of work for Mr. Pace, but I'm assuming I'm correct that people with kind of process questions and people who are looking for information and updated information about their accounts probably need to work through him. And what's the is there a deadline for us as a group to have settled this?
I think of like where each council member comes up with their contribution. This will eventually be put into the form of a budget amendment, but we have, some time to do that, and that will be a discussion with Mr. Pace with each council member to get instruction from the council member of, Mr. Pace can provide everybody with their current, numbers and take instruction on which account to pull it from. So,
all right, thank you.
Ms. Shepherd, do you have a question before we bring the substitute forward, or do you want to wait until after we bring it?
I'll wait until after bringing the substitute forward, please.
Okay, so let's take a vote on bringing the substitute forward.
The vote is open.
All right, Mr. Dickens?
Yay.
Mr. Metcalfe?
Yes.
All right, the substitute is the fourth. That was 7 yeses, 0 noes. And Ms. Shepherd, you're up.
Yes, my question, again, was something along the lines of Mr. Shook, but I also want to know at what point, even as we roll this out, was any of us briefed on this number at all? I mean, you all send it out, and I understand that, but I'm hesitant. I'm not sure if I can support a resolution until we get clarity from all of our colleagues on council that they support this. So of us to come up with a number like this and not having briefed each of us one-on-one in reference to this, I think is the error, and that we should have did better.
Well, Ms. Shepherd, I will respond to that this is just starting the discussion point, that it was an awkward, I think that the administration felt awkward that they had imposed a number on us, and it had imposed, that they had said where it would come from, and they really didn't feel that that was necessarily their role to do that. So putting a resolution in that allows us to make the decision ourselves is what the intent of this was. So that is, the intent wasn't to impose a number on people. The intent was to make this a council-driven process rather than have us be treated like any other department that falls under the executive offices. So it was really meant to pull it out of the administration having done our numbers. So, it's certainly up to discussion.
Well, let me just say, Ms. Ide, before each department put in their numbers, they actually met with folks in departments, talked about it.
They did not this year. That did not happen this year. That did not happen with City Council this year. So it was an awkward, different process this year.
I, again, have concerns about just arbitrarily throwing out a number, so I may not be supporting this. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I would have appreciated someone, either you or
as finance chair, someone sending us something to say, here's what we're proposing. If you have any questions, call me. Let's talk about it. The whole 9 yards. And so, I hear you, but I don't think it will hurt anyone to at least give input. I'm not saying I won't support it ultimately, but I would just like to have a lot more discussion on it.
But I am totally open to discussion. I will tell you, I have been completely slammed and overwhelmed with managing this budget process from afar, and I was really trying to do this to be helpful to us, to council, to Mr. Pace, to get a discussion going, and to give the administration some feedback on whether council was comfortable with the 340 number or if we were going to change that. So I'm totally open with discussion about whether we are going to accept the administration's proposed overall number and how we're going to allocate it. My thought is this probably does need to get up to full council and have the discussion there, since it involves, all of us and not just the people on finance exec. We just need to tee it up to have the discussion. So,
and I hear everything. I hear what you're saying, but you're asking today to support this resolution, and I'm just not that. We could have even had Mr. Pace to send something out that says, here's what we're proposing. Let's do it. I know you're busy like all of us, but I just think the process should have been just a little different, so that people prepared to at least know that it's out there for discussion. And let me ask this: so we're here. So, at what point are we going to even begin to have this discussion? What do you suggest going forward? How do we make this happen?
I mean, I am comfortable with us if the will of this committee is to not make a recommendation, but just get it to the full council floor so that everybody can participate. We can do that. Timing-wise, we need to have all the budget amendments need to be prepared prior to the June 15th meeting. So that's timing-wise where we are on this, that we need to have the budget amendments by then. I was sort of hopeful that we could. Mr. Pace will be presenting on June 2nd, so I was trying to find a way for council to weigh in before Mr. Pace presented, so that Mr. Pace knew what to present, because he didn't want to just make a decision on behalf of council members either. I don't know what people would think about, sending this up with no recommendation to full council for a discussion and debate on the first, and Mr. Pace between now and then can provide everybody with copies of their budget so everybody can see where the money could come from and what they have. And if we can get it done the first, we can get it done. If people aren't ready to make a decision, we'll just need to get it. We have to come up with the budget amendment by the 15th. That's the bottom line.
I hear you. I just think I'm not at a point yet where I'm comfortable with this. I'm not sure if I can support this right now.
Okay. Well, my motion is going to be to move this without recommendation to full council so that we can have a discussion amongst all of us, since this affects everybody. Everybody.
I'll second that motion. I'll second that motion. This is Matt Sakite, and I have a comment when
okay. Give you the floor.
Yeah, I appreciate you teeing this up, because we do need to have this conversation, and we need to have the discussion. And I think it should be, with a full council. So it's a bit awkward, but how do we do it? I think this is your recommendation is as good a way to do it as any. Frankly, I'm not sure that this goes far enough. This would be at the low end of the cuts for the departments in the administration, and I think council potentially should do more. We need to lead by example. So we can have that discussion, assuming this motion passes as you made the motion, we can have that discussion in full council. But, I think that we have to recognize that this is a year that we all need to make sacrifices, and we all need to give up things, just like we are asking the every department to do. So it'll be a good discussion. It's not easy, but it's one we need to have. Thank you.
Are you there?
All right.
Yes. I just want to say, I'm not opposing us giving up something, but for me, if we're talking about that, I need to be included in that conversation. It can't be a decision just made directly by anyone. Is that we are all independent people on council. We have independent decisions in terms of what should be done. So I'm not saying by any means that I will not support giving something up or whatever. We need to do that. But the decision, there needs to be a discussion around it. It shouldn't be done arbitrarily by anyone. The mayor's office, Ms. Ide, anybody. Somebody should at least have a discussion with us about this. We're now at the umpteenth hour, and y'all been sending emails out galore in terms of a lot of different things. And so we should have had some time to discuss this. So I want to go on record as saying I am not opposed to actually looking at funding and giving it up. To what extent, I don't know at this point, because I got to go back now and look at numbers and crunch numbers. But that's all I'm saying. Thank you.
All right, Joyce, and I will just reiterate, I by no means meant to make this a personal decision. The proposed budget was distributed that shows this cut, and not a single person reached out to me or to Mr. Pace or to the finance team to say, how did you all want to do this? And so trust me, this was me trying to make a collective decision, and I apologize that it has my name on the resolution, but it was to make a collective decision, and it has to be and to do it legislatively. So that's all the intent was, not trying to make a decision about anybody else's money. It was trying to get the discussion going. We have until the 15th to do it, and if anybody had reached out to me, I would have been happy to have the discussion.
I would have done it a different way, but that's all right, Ms. We can move on. All right, let's open the vote on the motion to refer without recommendation. To approve without recommendation.
The vote is open.
Yay.
Yes, Mathekite.
All right. Let's see who I'm missing. We have Archibong and Shepherd abstaining. So 5 yeses, 0 noes, 2 abstentions. So this will be forwarded to full council with no recommendation. And Mr. Pace, if you would please send all council members a copy of their current office budget, that would be great. All right, this brings us to item number 21, 20R4002, a resolution by Finance Executive Committee authorizing the mayor, her designee, on behalf of the City of Atlanta, to enter into a professional services agreement pursuant to Procurement Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta, Chapter 2, Article 10, Division 4, Section 2-1191.1, Special Procurement, with TDA Consulting, Inc. for federal management consulting services in an amount not to exceed $234,541.39 for the base term of 1 year and should begin on the effective date of a subsequent agreement, with the option to renew for an additional 1 year term. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the accounts listed herein and for other purposes. And I will make a motion to adopt if there are any questions for anybody. I think we have somebody from GOP on the line.
Second.
All right. Let's open the vote.
Councilmember, we actually have a substitute for this particular piece.
Oh, okay. Then I will make a motion to bring forth a substitute.
I will withdraw my motion to second the original motion and instead move to bring forward, second the motion to bring forward a substitute.
Okay, let me just find the substitute. If I'm substitute and tell you what it. This is item. Ms. Kempson, right? Well, I'm looking. Do you have it in front of you? What the substitute does?
Yes, ma'am. It corrects and adds funding account. It's item number 21, but the caption does not change.
Okay, so it's just changing the funding account. All right. Will you open the vote for bringing forth the substitute? I think that was my motion and Shook second.
And the vote is open.
Yes, Massachusetts.
Mr.
Yes.
Dickens?
Dickens. Yes.
All right, 7 yeses, 0 no's. The substitute before us. I'll make a motion to adopt on substitute.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Yes. Dickens.
All right, Mr. Massachusetts?
Yes.
All right, that's favorable, 7 yeses, 0 no's. Takes us to item 22, 20R 4003, a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor who designate to enter amendment number 8 to add the Department of Public Works and Atlanta Municipal Court as authorized users and to exercise renewal option number 4 of cooperative agreement number FC 8772 for closed caption TV product services and installation. This is for a term of 1 year, effective July 29, 2020 to July 28, 2021, a cumulative amount not to exceed $198,031.35.
Hey.
Look, can somebody put themselves on mute? Said funds to be encumbered in fiscal year 2021, contingent upon budget approval and adoption. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from accounts listed herein and for other purposes. I will make a motion to approve.
My neighbors and I vote aye.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? If not, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens. Yes.
All right, Massachusetts? Mr. Massachusetts?
Please.
He's about to board the SpaceX.
Okay, well, I don't think we caught Mr. Massachusetts. There's going to be 6
Yes.
yeses.
Yes
0.
for Massachusetts.
You're there. Okay. 7 yeses, 0 no's. This item is favorable. Item 23, 20R 4004, a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor to enter into renewal number 2 with Workiva, Inc. for FC 9316, implementation of the comprehensive annual financial report tool on behalf of the Department of Watershed Management, Department of Finance, and Department of Aviation, an amount not to exceed $121,800. All contracted work should be charged to and paid from the fund department, organization, and accounts listed herein and for other purposes. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Yes. For Mr. Dickens.
Massachusetts, yes.
All right, this item's favorable, 7 yeses, 0 no's. Brings us to 24, 20R4005, a resolution by Finance Exec authorizing the mayor or designee to enter special procurement agreement number STF 1200538 pursuant to section 2-1191.1 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances with Motorola Solutions to purchase an enterprise managed services agreement for the ASTRO 25 radio system on behalf of the Department of Land Information Management for 4 years with 0 renewal terms and amount not to exceed $14,120,533. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from funding numbers listed herein, subject to and expressly contingent upon the adoption and approval of fiscal year 2021 budget and for other purposes. This is a big number, so I would like to hear from Mr. Brantley a little bit more about what this contract does and if this amount is included in his proposed department funding for fiscal year 2021 budget.
Hello, this is CPO Hayes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is actually a consolidation of 2 Motorola contracts that the city had. One was for maintenance and one was for services and upgrades. And we had a lengthy negotiation with Motorola and have actually done between the 2 contracts, there's a significant reduction. The funding for this will be paid as a split funded item. So AIM has a portion of it, and then the other department funding lines are listed in the legislation.
Okay, so it's not necessarily it's sort of a consolidation of existing contracts. I mean, we have a contract in place. Okay.
Yes,
right.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any further questions?
I'll second it, but I have a comment. In light of our reminder earlier that when we wrote the iPro legislation, we excluded special procurements. I wonder if we need to have a conversation about whether that was something that we need to correct or whether we're comfortable with the status quo. But I'll second this.
Okay.
And I agree with you, Mr. Shook. I do think that caught us off guard the last time we had a question about a special procurement in iPro. So let's put that on the to be discussed list. All right. Well, there's a motion by Ida, second by Shook. Let's open the vote.
The vote is open.
Dickens, yes.
Matt Scott, yes.
All right. Guidance favorable, 7 yeses, 0 no's. Next item is 20R4006. It's a resolution by Councilors Jennifer and I and J.P. Matsakite directing the Chief Financial Officer to provide a monthly update on revenue collections through the close of fiscal year 2021 and for other purposes. And this legislation just asks the CFO to provide us with a monthly update at the Finance Executive Committee on how we are tracking on revenue collections against budget, since we know that we're going to have a tight budget this year and need to be proactive about making sure that we are within our revenue projections. So I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Second by Shook. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Matt Scott, yes.
Yes. Yes, Dickens.
Okay. Mr. Westmoreland? All right, this item is favorable, 7 yeses, 0 no's. This brings us to dual referred, and let's see what is ready to go forward. Ms. Kempson, right, does that take us to 28?
Yes, item number 28 from dual referral.
Okay. 28 is 20-1357, an ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet to create the Airport CARES Act grant fund, 55XX, and a new project number in the city's Oracle financial system to amend the fiscal year 2020 budget by adding some anticipations and appropriations of proceeds of the FAA grant agreement 3-13-0008-123-2020 in the amount of $338,535,265 for the Coronavirus and Relief and Economic Security CARES Act grant and for other purposes. This item had been dual referred and came out of Transportation Committee with a favorable recommendation. Was it unanimous, Mr. Dickens, you recall?
Yes, unanimous.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Is that Matsakite?
Shook.
Oh, sure. Okay. Will you please open the vote?
Matsakite, yes.
All right, Dickens?
The vote is open.
Yes. Dickens, yes.
All right. This item's favorable, 7 yeses, 0 noes. Takes us to item 32, 20-1184, ordinance by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet to amend Chapter 114, Personnel, Article 4, Classification Plan of the Code of Ordinances, City of Atlanta, Georgia, so as to provide for certain position abolishments, creations, classifications, class creations, above entry authorizations, employee position transfers, position funding allocation changes, and other personnel actions in line with the 2020 budget and for other purposes. There's a substitute for this that we need to bring forward, so I'll make a motion to do that.
Second.
All right, second by Shook. Let's vote on the substitute.
The vote is open.
Mr. Dickens?
Yes.
Mr. Matsakite?
Yes.
All right. So the substitutes before us, 7 yeses, 0 noes. Mr. Norman, if you're on the line, this is for sort of personnel cleanup for current year, and this is different from the personnel paper that we'll have for the coming year budget, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. If anybody has any questions for Mr. Norman, he's here with us. Otherwise, I'll make a motion to adopt on substitute.
Second.
Second by Shook.
The vote is open.
All right, Dickens?
Yes.
Matsakite, yes.
All right, this item's favorable on substitute, 7 yeses, 0 noes. All right, next item is 35, is 20-1284. Hold on 1 second. Do we need to take this, Ms. Kempton, right, or can this sit where it is? Does this need to be held, or can it just stay where it is?
We got notification from the sponsor. It can just remain where it is. It can remain held right now.
All right. So are we at 40?
Yes, that is your referral from other committees. There was a referral from CDHS yesterday, 20-01368, and it needs to be substituted today in our committee as well.
Okay, and members received the substitute in an email at 1:41. Is that the right one?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, so we're on item 40. It's 20-1368, an ordinance by Councilmember Andrea L. Boone, and substituted by CDHS, authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into amendment number 1 of EA-S 1200443, Emergency Meals on the Go with Social Express Catering and Meal Prep LLC, for the purpose of extending the term of the agreement on a month-to-month basis for up to 3 months, and to modify the scope of services to provide summer meals on the go to Atlanta youth ages 5 to 17, effective June 1, 2020, on behalf of the Department of Parks and Rec and for other purposes. And did the substitute change the caption?
To my knowledge, no. It only changed Section 5. There are errors in the account string.
Okay. So I will make a motion to bring forward the substitute.
Second.
let's open the vote on bringing forward the substitute.
The vote is open.
Mr. Dickens?
Yes. Yes.
Matt
Dickens.
Kite?
Yes, Matt Kite.
All right. All right, the substitute before us, 7 yeses, 0 noes. I'll make a motion to adopt on substitute.
Second.
Open the vote.
The vote is open.
Yes, Dickens.
All right, Matt Kite?
Yes, Matt Kite.
All right. That is favorable on substitute. 7 yeses, 0 noes. I believe that brings us to the end of our legislative items. Is that correct, Ms. Simpson, right?
Yes, that's correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. That was a lot to get through today. So thank you, everybody, for sticking with me. That is the end of our legislative items. And before we sign off, an announcement that week 2 of our fiscal year 2021 remote budget hearings are going to kick back off. Well, we do have budget hearings tomorrow. We have one day this week, and that is tomorrow beginning at, let me just double check my calendar. We have the union tomorrow, so we have 1 minute. We have, beginning at 10, we have AFSCME. At 10:30, we have PACE. At 11:30, we have fire. And at 12:30, we have police. And so if you are able to join us tomorrow, you should have gotten the calendar invite with the conference bridge number for that. And again, for the public, that'll be on Channel 26 and on the City Council website and social media pages. And then next week, we will be back on a fuller week beginning on, 1 second. Ms. Kempson, right, I closed my notes. Can you tell us what the rundown is for next week on the budget presentation?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second. If I can find it again. We will start on Tuesday, June 2nd, the Department of Human Resources, Executive Officers, Department of Procurement, City Council. That evening we'll have the remote public hearing, as well as at 6:15 the remote budget public hearing, interactive community budget session. On Wednesday, June 3rd, starting at 10, we'll have the Department of Parks and Recreation, followed by the Department of Law, Municipal Court, Office of the Public Defender, Office of the Solicitor. Thursday, June 4th, starts at 10 with the Department of City Planning, Department of Finance, Department of Enterprise Assets Management, and Department of Customer Service, ATL 311. And Friday will start at 10 a.m. with the Department of Aviation, followed by Department of Public Works, and last, the personnel pay for discussion.
Okay, thank you. And for the public, the budget hearing that is Tuesday, June 2nd, residents can submit your questions via email to budgettalk@atlantagA.gov. They can do it through Facebook and Twitter, direct messages to City Council. You can leave a voicemail by dialing 404-546-1928 or texting 404-548-2885. And the fiscal year 2021 proposed budget book is available on the Council's website on the Finance Executive page. So with that, if there's nothing from any of the council members, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And hopefully you can join tomorrow for our budget hearings to hear from our employee representatives.